Good morning everyone. It's another beautiful day here on the farm. Jumper's going to be coming off soon. It's starting to warm right up. It was a bit fresh this morning, but it's a beautiful day now. And we have, I don't know if you can see there through the back, we got the excavator in tow. We are finally heading down to this blowout we had the other day, our pipe blowout. I went down before to check it out. Looks like it's dry enough to get the excavator in. In spots it's definitely not. We will cross that bridge when we come to it. Hopefully we don't get bogged. Hopefully it's dry enough for us to get in there. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you've been here before, I sincerely apologise. But welcome back. I was gonna try and get down here, but I don't think that's a smart idea. I think I will pull the excavator off the trailer and I'll have to walk it in. In this far, you can see our tracks behind us there. We're starting to sink in. We've still got to make it over to those valves over there. It's probably still another 20 or 30 metres, but it's only getting wetter as we get in there. Well, we can't get in that way. Let's try a different way. So we made it in, took a couple of attempts, a couple of different paths, but we found a dry spot, sort of. Let's get to taking this valve apart and give us some room to work around. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with here. We've got this pipe here. I was actually surprised when I dug it up to find that it had just blown off the end. It was just a fitting that hadn't been glued properly. So just going to put that one down to incompetence. But what's happened is this length of pipe here, this fitting here has blown off that bit of pipe. And all we're going to do is glue it back on, which makes my life really bloody easy. I was expecting it to get down here and find cracked pipes, or, you know, I thought we were gonna have to dig up a bloody couple of metre long trench here behind me and replace a whole bit of pipe and rebuild all the filter, but we don't have to do that. We can just glue this bit of pipe here back on there, bolt it back up here, and we're all good to go. So yeah, definitely not as bad as we first thought. I got me gum boots on here because I'm gonna have to get a little bit muddy, but that is fine. We will do what we need to do and get it fixed. Into the fitting, primed, ready to go. Into the pipe, primed, ready to go. Now it's just time to glue them back together. That's nicer. So I ripped this out with the excavator. This little hydraulic hose might be hard to see, but out of that little fitting, that little blue fitting down there, accidentally caught it with the excavator. This controls our irrigation automation and opens and closes the valves from the computer. So we better put that back on. So as you may have seen with how wet it was when we were trying to get the excavator in there, we almost got it bogged a few times just trying to get to the valves so we could dig them up. So we're going to leave it a few days before we fill the hole in. Otherwise I think we might end up getting bogged. What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't get it bogged.
Alright, we won't get it bogged. We'll fill it in another day. Alright, now that job's done, time to go and have some lunch, I reckon. Have a quick clean up and get all this mud and shit off me. And then we'll go and find something else to get on with. Never a dull moment around here, there's always plenty to do. So, we'll go and find it. Okay, lunch is in, got our pipe fixed. It's getting pretty late in the day now. We had a few little jobs pop up. By the time I walked outside again, it was after 4 o'clock. So I got to see the kids come home on the bus, which was good. Have a bit of a chat to them and see how their day was. Now we're just going to walk through and turn these zucchinis on. We're actually going to hook these up to our automated irrigation system this afternoon after this irrigation. So what that entails, I'll turn you around here. What that entails at the moment, that's closed. This pipe leads to the back side of the valve. This is just a hydraulic valve, a 2-inch hydraulic valve, 50mm, and it gets its pressure. There's a diaphragm in here that pumps up and down with water to close and open the pathway for the water to get through. At the moment that's closed, it's getting its pressure from the other side of the valve and putting it into the diaphragm, which closes the diaphragm over. And when we move this tap to an open spot, like that, it lets all the water out of the diaphragm and allows the flow to continue through the valve. Hello? So anyway, after I was rudely interrupted there by my phone, we'll go back to this. So, on a lot of our permanent plantings, we have pressure reducing pressure pilots that are bolted to the side of the valve that control how much water gets let in and out of the diaphragm. These ones don't have one. I'll show you, might be later on in this video, it might be in another video. I'll show you what a pressure pilot is, but this particular setup, so these are called planet regulators, and what they do is there are two springs in these chambers here that control plungers that limit how much pressure can go through them. At the moment this patch is set up with 12-pound planet regulators on them. So the maximum pressure those valves will let through, they'll pump up this lay flat pipe that runs all the way across the patch, all the way to the other side. That is what actually irrigates this patch. And I'll see if I can show you here. I'll just have to snap a few branches out of the way so you can get a good view. I've still got one more valve over that way to open, so the pressure isn't completely up here yet, but you can see how this lay flat here runs all the way across the patch, and then every row it has these takeoffs in there which connect to the dripper line, and that's how we water our zucchinis. By the looks of it, we need to get a spray out on these zucchinis. It was a bit hard to see over the last couple of days because we've had a whitefly issue. Tiny little insect, a little whitefly, and what it does, it gets its nutrients and energy from sucking on the leaves of the zucchini plants. And what it actually does is transfers a virus to the plant called silverleaf virus. And as you can see down the patch, a lot of these plants have contracted the silverleaf virus. Now, it doesn't affect the fruit in any way. Well, it does. It affects the yield that the plant will actually put off. But the fruit itself is unaffected by the virus. Obviously, the virus is going to mess with the way that the plants photosynthesize, or contract their energy from the sun. But the thing I was noticing on them, which the silverleaf virus, because these plants have the silverleaf virus, it's really hard to pick up on any other diseases or viruses they might be getting. So what I'm actually scouting for at the moment is those other viruses and diseases that we need to be able to control, like powdery mildew. I can tell just by looking at the top of it, this plant, or a lot of them, but they will have powdery mildew by that spotting there on the leaf. If I turn the leaf upside down, you will see all the powdery mildew spores. So by looking at that, we need to get a spray on these zucchinis as soon as possible. There's no leaks, no blow-offs with the water, so we're all good. So these plants here had silverleaf virus. The reason they had silverleaf virus, one, because of whitefly, but two, was because they were planted next to existing cucurbits. Zucchinis are what are known as a cucurbit. They live in the cucurbit family for fruits and vegetables, same as watermelon. If you plant cucurbits next to existing cucurbits, you are increasing your risk for diseases and viruses and pests and things that affect cucurbits. So in hindsight, we really should not be planting our zucchinis next to a patch of watermelon that's already been in for a month or two, which makes it hard because there's only so much land to go around. Because we have ground that's on and off rotation at certain times of the year, we can't just use another patch because that patch is off rotation for 12 months for us to use next year. It'd be nice to have the land to be able to have everything separate and to not plant things next to things we shouldn't. Well, it's not that we shouldn't, it's just you're increasing your risk of disease and stuff like that. Okay, so we are the next day now. I've had to fast forward a little bit. We are just heading out the back to turn on, or to open, a flusher valve. And then we're going to open the isolators for that main that blew out the other day that we fixed. Fixed that yesterday. And that's just to help relieve a little bit of pressure for when we turn the pump on, because I've got that main open. I don't want it to have full pressure straight away. So I'm just opening this flusher valve out the back on the back fence, because when the pump would have gone off, a lot of the water that came out of that pipe would have actually got sucked back into it, along with all of the dirt and other crap that was in there. So the idea with this is to just open this valve on the back fence, and with a bit of luck, it'll flush all that stuff it sucked in out of the end of the line, while also reducing how much pressure on that new join initially. So it's a flusher there, it's just a 4-inch butterfly valve, and that's the end of our main line that comes from the pump. So I'm going to turn the pump on now, wait here for that to start, let it flush for a few minutes, and while it's flushing I'll go and check on the join and make sure it's holding. And then by the time I get back out here to close it, it would have flushed for long enough to flush all the crap out of the line, and made me a little bit more comfortable that it'll hold the pressure. We run about 60 pound of pressure in this main line, so it's going to have to withstand that without blowing out again. I've got a feeling I should chock it, but there's just no solid ground behind the leak to chock it against. And then if we ever need to dig it back up again, it's a real pain in the ass to have to dig around chocks. And yeah, as I said, there's nowhere to chock it against, so it's almost at the point where we need to pour a cement block in there behind it to stop it blowing out. But I hate doing that, because then that is a real pain to dig around if we ever need to dig it up again. Okay, that pump is starting up now, so we'll check in a second and see how it's going. Our pressure is climbing. We're back down in the gully here now, just where we opened that valve in the low point the other day to help the main drain. It's down here now, waiting for all the air to get out of the line to close it off. We've got a big 4-inch valve open right at the end of this line, so this little 2-inch valve's just taking a little bit of the pressure off, but that 4-inch butterfly valve will be doing the majority of the work. But you can see the colour. I'm not actually sure if you can see the colour of the water, but I can tell it's a little bit dirty. There's a lot of dirt and soil and stuff in it. So we'll have to let that run for a little bit, and yeah, because we don't want that blocking up the filters for our citrus patch, because if we don't flush that out the end of the line, it's going to end up in the filters, unfortunately. It looks like we got most of the air out of this now. We'll turn him off. We'll head back down to our 4-inch flusher at the other end of the line and see how that's going. I can hear more water. I can hear more water. We've got to go for a walk and investigate. Another thing we have to fix. We'll just kick some of the weeds away so you can see what's going on here. We have got a crack. That is just a 2-inch ball valve. And there's a crack in the side of it, just there. Unfortunately, it is on the pressure side of the valve. I can't isolate it. I can't turn that off. It's not huge, so we'll have to let that run for a few minutes while I deal with this, because we really need to get the water back on this little citrus patch. On these little citrus trees. It's not so little of a patch. One of our larger patches. It's about 30 acres. We're just going to head back to the pipe where we fixed the blowout the other day and make sure that's all good. Make sure it hasn't blown out. As I said before, we've still got that 4-inch flusher valve open right out the back of the line, so hopefully it's still holding. It wouldn't be at full pressure. Well, it couldn't be at full pressure because we've got a 4-inch hole in the end of the line. Well, that looks promising. It's holding at least. A heap of water in there still. That's nothing to be concerned about. That is just a heap of groundwater that's seeped back in to the low spot. Because we had such a big leak out here, the water table's probably risen a bit. Our drainage pumps are working overtime at the moment, trying to move it all away, but they're going as fast as they can. Head back down to this 4-inch butterfly valve at the end of the line and see how that's going for water quality. Make sure all the crap's out of the line, and then we'll close it off. Come back down here and check that out. Make sure it's holding at full pressure. Okay, we've had our flusher running for a few minutes now, so probably 15 minutes or so. The water looks clean enough. The water looks clean enough now to start turning it off, so I'll turn it off. I think we've made enough of a mess. Turn it off nice and slowly so we don't hammerlock that valve and blow it off. I've just turned these young washies on now just to have something on this line to relieve a bit more of the pressure for that other valve, because we do not want that other valve to blow off at all. These washies have struggled enough with water for the last week, so we need to make sure that they get a good drink today, because they need it. So it looks like my mic's gone flat. Hopefully this video is still usable. Might have to speak a little louder. I don't know, maybe I don't. Maybe the audio will just be crap. Maybe it might be okay. These little cameras sometimes have decent microphones built into them. I'm just using a little DJI Osmo Action 5, I think. Yeah, that's what it is. It says it on it right in front of me, right in front of my face. DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. One thing I will say is this talking to the camera business is not right up my alley, to be honest. It's one of the most hardest, most awkward things I've ever had to do. Not had to. I feel like I'm starting to get a little more, not confident, but comfortable. So far I am definitely enjoying it. So we are just coming up to this valve that we fixed, and it still looks straight, so that's good. I think we've been successful. I think we done it. Quiet, don't talk too loud. They might hear us. Anyway, that valve is holding at full pressure now. There's 60 pound in the line. All the valves are off, all of the flush valves are off. We've got the washies on out the back there. They're getting a drink. And this valve is holding. I would like to chock it. I really want to chock it. So before we fill it in, I think we'll chock it. We'll just have to figure out how we're going to be able to do that. But that won't be a today job. That's another day job. I'll keep checking it during the day. Make sure it holds. We've got to give the washies a little bit of a water, and then as soon as they've had a little bit of a drink, we need to go and put the overheads on around the zucchinis to wet up the ground around them, because we are expecting a frost tonight. The land around the zucchinis is all worked up and there's no moisture in the soil, which attracts the cold. It'll allow that area to become colder than it would if there was moisture, if the soil was holding moisture. So we've got to go and put the sprinklers on in the patches surrounding the zucchinis. Then as soon as the zucchini pickers have finished picking, then we need to put the overheads on the zucchinis to wet up the patch. We probably shouldn't do it while they're picking. That might be a bit mean. Might hurry them up too. Try and keep the intrusive thoughts out one step at a time. Well, anyway, this concludes our pipe fixing video. I'm going to leave this video here. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you did enjoy watching, consider chucking a like or subscribing to the channel. Catch you next time. See ya.